Sony just flipped the script on smartphone design again. But here's where it gets controversial. The company's latest Xperia X7 isn't just another mid-range phone. It's a full-blown rebellion against Sony's own design legacy. And this is the part most people miss. The Xperia X7 is the first Sony phone in over 5 years to ditch its signature vertical camera stack in favor of a horizontal pill-shaped camera bar that screams, "Look at me." Think Google Pixel meets Apple iPhone Air, but with a twist of Sony's own eccentricity. Let's break it down. For years, Sony's Xperia line clung to that vertical trio of cameras like a security blanket. Even the ultra-exclusive Xperia Pro I, remember that beast of a camera-first phone, stuck to the formula. But the X7? It's like a fashion-forward friend who suddenly swaps skinny jeans for wide-leg trousers. That raised pill-shaped bar stretches across the back, housing 2 cameras, 50-megapixel main, 13-megapixel ultra-wide in a design that's equal parts bold and baffling. Matte plastic in black, white, or turquoise? Check. A look that borrows heavily from Google and Apple? Also check. But hey, if imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, Sony's paying tribute to the Pixel and iPhone Air with all the subtlety of a neon sign. Now, the front doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. Sony's signature chunky bezels are back, above and below the 6.1-inch 120Hz display. Don't expect a pocket-sized marvel here, but it's still smaller and lighter than most mid-range phones. And here's a curveball. The 19.59 screen ratio swaps out the old 21:9 cinema aspect ratio. Why? Because in 2024, not everyone wants to scroll vertically like they're watching a movie. Though die-hard Sony fans might miss the old format for video content. But wait, there's more. Sony hasn't entirely abandoned its quirks. The 3.5mm headphone jack, still there. Expandable microSD storage, still here to please the analog crowd. Front-facing stereo speakers, cranked up in those thick bezels. And that side-mounted camera shutter button? A nod to photography purists, even if it's not as unique as it once was. Now, let's get real about specs. The Snapdragon 6 Gen 3 isn't going to win any speed races, but it's solid for everyday use. The dual rear cameras? Nothing groundbreaking, but they should handle the basics well. And that 5,000 milliamp battery? Sony claims 2 days of life, but let's be honest, fast charging is still stuck in the wired era. No wireless charging? Really? In 2024? That's a head-scratcher. Here's the thing. Sony phones have always been love it or loathe it propositions. I've never been able to ignore their looks, even when specs lagged. But the Xperia X7 feels like a turning point. When Sony's CEO recently said Xperia phones are very important to the company, did they mean this? The new design language suggests commitment, but will it translate to next year's flagship? Only time will tell. Pricing? €449, £399, $530. Available now for pre-order in the UK and Europe, shipping September 19th. But here's the real question. Is Sony finally embracing modern design or just copying its rivals? And this is where opinions will clash. Should we applaud a phone that dares to break its own rules or criticize it for playing catch-up? Sound off in the comments. Is the Xperia X7 a bold new chapter for Sony or just a desperate attempt to stay relevant?